Master Jesse Kraai with another chesslecture.com video presentation. And today we're going to be looking at the checkmate of two bishops and a king versus the king. Now, this is a somewhat obscure checkmate in some ways because it doesn't occur that often. And I think the main value of this checkmate is not only to be able to do it at the end of the game, but to realize certain of the properties of how the pieces work together, in this case in particular the two bishops. Let's talk a little bit about the two bishops. The first question to ask maybe could be, well, why is a bishop really worth less than a rook, say? Right? A rook moves horizontally and vertically, and a bishop moves diagonally. And you could say, well, they should really be the same amount because they control about the same amount of squares. And the answer as to why a rook is much more powerful than a bishop is that a bishop can only touch, any given bishop can only touch 32 squares of the board at one time, half the board. If a bishop is born on the dark squares, he'll spend the rest of his career on the dark squares, and the same thing with a light squared bishop. So, at some point in your chess career, or perhaps already, you've heard that the two bishops are a very strong entity. And this, I think, checkmate can demonstrate how. Now, the reason is that when two bishops are standing like this in the middle of the board, they control both colors of squares, and they have extraordinary influence throughout the whole board. And if you count the squares, you'll find that we're coming up on 13 squares each, or 26 altogether, which is about the same as two rooks would control. So that's why the two bishops together as a team, because they control both colors of the board, are so powerful. They're in essence very close to as powerful as a pair of rooks. And that's why this particular checkmate is not particularly hard, because the bishops are so powerful. Okay. I really encourage you to do this checkmate with a friend until you're able to do it very easily. I think the best example could be a rather banal one, say taken from a really bad movie like The Karate Kid, where Mr. Miyagi has the young karate student sanding the floor and doing other various operations with his hands, repetitive motions where he's getting the feel of how things work and how things move together on a very basic level. And I think learning simple positions, such as this checkmate, and then at a more difficult level, the bishop and knight checkmate versus the king, will help you discover the latent possibilities of simple positions. Now, when I say simple positions, I don't mean it's easy. I just mean that there's fewer pieces on the board. Okay, let's take a look at how white can checkmate black in this position. Notice already that black is in a cage with the arrows, and he can never escape that cage if white doesn't let him out. Okay, let's make a move. Let's start with bishop e5. Okay, what am I doing? Well, I've just put black in zugzwang. Remember, zugzwang is putting black in a position where he has to move, but really, if he had his choice, would rather pass or not move. So we see now I've cut the king a little closer, and now he has to move backwards. That's the essence of zugzwang in an endgame situation. He has to move. Okay, so let's say he goes over here, king d7. I'll advance my king, cutting off more squares. King e7. And now I'll play bishop c6. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just cutting the king more. And notice that good players in the endgame will generally not use check moves, okay? They won't check their opponent. They'll force their opponent to move by cutting away all of his potential squares. Okay, let's say black moves over here. Again, zugzwang. I cut him, cutting off all of his squares. And now we see he has to run for the corner. Okay, king f8, king g6. So I would say the first stage of this mate has been done. We've driven the king to the side of the board where we can now manipulate him, and he can't get out. And here again, he must move. He's in zugzwang. He doesn't want to move to the side of the board, but he has to. So king g8, and now we do, I guess, the second stage of the 3 stages to this mate, bishop e7, where I take away now the f8 square from the black king. So this is a critical position that we can use also in the bishop and knight checkmate. Notice that really I put the king on g8 in a cage, where my king on g6 and my bishop on e7 prevent the king from moving at all. And of course I'm going to need the help of another piece, either a bishop or a knight, to execute the checkmate. But that's the second stage. We've put him into this cage. Okay, so the king has to move, and we'll waste the move. We'll go all the way back here, bishop a3, king g8, he must move there, bishop d5, king h8, bishop b2. And notice the bishops are beautiful pieces. They have such incredible long range and force. And this easy checkmate, though it takes some time to practice and get it right, illustrates their power. So, this is International Master Jesse Kraai, hoping you've enjoyed this demonstration of the 2-bishop checkmate. Bye-bye.